let's do this. Hello, me. I am refreshed, or rather, I will be soon. I finally can show off the mythical apple cinnamon sparkling. This stuff, so good, so good.
Oh, yes.
Och, you doth sim going to bed.
You're going to bed. Very well, Bane. It's good to see you, even if we meet only to part. I hope your trip went well, and that it was refreshing for the soul for you, Bane. Go get some sleep, and then have a relaxing Saturday if you can. So much steak tonight. Oh, if you have any spare steak, let me know. Now, where did we leave off in the last workshop from last night? I really wanted to do this part last night, but I mean, going to bed was definitely something that needed doing. Oh, 20. Oh, wow. Okay. Is this following the rule of grilling season starts with Memorial Day and ends with Veterans Day? So this was your last big grilling moment before you put the grill away for the winter? So where we left off, we were going over the setting being very important to... It didn't work out. Oh, were they fighting back? It's tough when the lobsters fight back. So we were talking about fantasy maps, and we did have the map of Clichea, and we had a fun story about it. I have a similar fun map pulled up here. The only fantasy world map you'll ever need, which has all of the things that we tend to include in our own fantasy maps. Which is fine, by the way. Just as we were having fun with Gothmore being the Dark Lands, and as a tribute to Heretic Trance. So we'll still have our Gothmore, but we're finding in this alternative, totally not our world, wink. No, you're fine, Bane. Oh, the person who normally grabs them from Maine was in Louisiana. Oh, well then, Bane, if that person was down in Louisiana, you could have gone for smaller lobsters and get some crawdads. Them's good eatin'. Yeah, mud bugs. There we go. Noctis knows. Them's good eatins. Man, that makes me think of having a shrimp po' boy sandwich. That sounds really good right about now. But I can't. Mostly because... Well, do I have shrimp? I might have shrimp. I might have frozen shrimp somewhere. It's more the sandwich part. But, anyway. So as you can see, often we have... Oh, and lots of mead, too. Homemade stuff? You have the Jade Empire, which is totally not China. The Ninja Country, which is totally not Japan. You have... here you have the Black Forest, which is totally not Germany. I like that, we have some interpretations of perhaps England or some other places here. You know, and then we have a very abbreviated Caribbean, which is so we have Tortuga and Pirate Country here, just off the coast of Desert Punk, and where there's alien Egyptians, coming up to Arabian Nights. We travel east to the tiger-headed opium nightmare, and then we make our way to the not Pacific Ocean, where the volcano gods are being mean. Yep, the Schwarzwald. Oh, I thought your travel already finished, Bane. Okay. Well, then I'm glad that you went there, and please do wave again on your way back. Eat, drink, be merry, and have a wonderful catharsis. Hopefully not the physical kind of catharsis. Maybe more of just an energetic one, a spiritual catharsis. So we have many different tropes that you can lean into, things that we're all guilty of doing, because, you know, we do pull upon things that we know or are familiar with, or we make something totally not, totally not Russia by having, I guess, the centaur steppes. Well, that might be more of Mongolia. The goblin hordes, and up here over we have the clockwork czars, and then we come down here through Ravenholm to the crumbling Crusader state, and you know, so just we do this and it's fine. And if you want to call it something different, please do. But this is what we want to do. We want to bring to life our world, and our world is very much going to have Gothmore, Gondar, the land that's just right. You know, Rajashi, the exotic city. These things that are very similar. And what we came up with last night together for our Grimdark setting is that it is a desert and mountain area. Those are the two biomes that we generated for this place. It is ruled as a dictatorship. In this area, there is a totem pole and a fountain that are monuments of note of some variety. If not in some vast scale. Maybe they're just super huge. Maybe with historical importance. Or it's the only, the fountain in a desert that might be a very important gathering place. Is the totem pole at all related to the weird locale? And all of these were randomly generated by you all in chat. Our weird locale is we have a boulder carved with talking faces. Now, how does that play into things? This land is populated by dwarves and dragonborn who have a tension or rivalry. The ruler of this place is a feared tyrant. There is an important graveyard that is located here. This area is known for its artists and writers. And how is that going to be important to a map and making a map? Well, artists and writers do help actually create the map. But that is going to be an indication to us that we have the ability to create art if it's known for it. It's difficult to be known for your beautiful canvas paintings if you're not able to manufacture or import canvas from other places, or linseed oil, or an equivalent for oil painting, or something else for some other form of art. If there is no clay in your part of Catan, then you'll have to trade for it. And if you can't trade for clay, and if you can't produce clay, you're probably not going to have a booming or industrious or innovative pottery part of your culture. And the current calamity, there are marauding monsters. And this is going to play really well into what we're going to do later in this workshop with our monster ecology discussion. Good morning to you, Tony Karlstrom. Now, based on this, because it is important to map out, not just for the tongue-in-cheek humor that the TV Tropes website had of, you know, like every fantasy book has a map in it. Or rather, maybe every fantasy map has a book attached to it from how it was described. That is going to help us, as the writers, track what... Oh, freestyle, thank you. To track what is happening where. And how long would it take for travel to occur? How long would it take for the machinations of the big bad evil guy to come to fruition? That kind of a thing. Now, these are beautiful maps. Look at this. Cliche here. Now, I don't know if this was done in just Photoshop or if a program like Incarnate or WonderDraft. WonderDraft is an amazing program. I have WonderDraft, but I'm not going to use it tonight. And the reason I'm not going to isn't because I've lost faith in the program or it doesn't suit my needs. It absolutely does, and it does a wonderful and beautiful job. Instead, I am going to use Paint. That's right, good old-fashioned MS Paint. Now, why would I do such a thing? I want to keep this as accessible as possible, and it's not just about accessibility. I want you to be able to adapt by growing the setting or changing or adapting the notes to what you see. And if we keep it simple, right? KISS, K-I-S-S. Keep it simple, stupid. If we use the KISS method, not only are we going to have a clear and distinct map, it's going to be a canvas upon which we can paint our words, or we can outline the series of events that are going to take place. And I imagine no matter where you live in the world, most if not all of you have access to Paint. Now, if I can do this in Paint, I promise you that you can do this in any other program. Though before I get to this, although in order to let's take that glaring white down a little bit. Oh, look at that. We just created a desert. Oh, cool. It was that easy. I'm going to tuck this away for one moment. We've touched on it, and we'll circle back around. Because there are some other tools that you can use. I'm going to bring them up real quick. I'm going to share them with you. Yeah, I have that on my phone, actually, Rip Artist. So, you know, we have our fantasy world map. I'll relink this if you want to read through it. And, of course, like any other style of wiki, you can have a ton of fun clicking through the random linked articles. Now, if you go over to Donjon, this is an amazing site that has all kinds of generators and calculators for you. And it's free to use. Have fun. Dice rollers, name generators, and what we're going to look at, in case you didn't want to do it yourself, although I highly recommend that you do. Even if you say, well, I'm an amateur, cool. That actually helps. If you don't know a bunch of stuff about real life, that makes it easier for you to present fantasy. Also, if you're building it yourself, you're more intimately familiar with the setting. Though, leaving that point, because I'm not going to judge your work, or tell you what not to do. If you come over to a world generator, it has one of those. And let's see what happens. We have a world that we're going to call Herozonea. Welcome to Herozonea, everyone. Now, Herozonea is entering a winter time. We're going to increase our ice to 22%. Nay. 25%. Nay! Herozonia, as a this is not the name of our novel. I'm hamming it up and having fun. It's cold. This is a very equatorial place. Now, we do have a lot of water. In fact, let's increase that a little bit. Actually, let's decrease it. If our ice caps have grown, our water, we're going to put down to 30%. Now, we can go through and change... you see how we can change the this stuff here. We have English runes. Ooh, this is looking very, very fancy, isn't it? Do we want the geography of mountains on? Do we want rivers? Do we want cities and castles? Would you like this on a hex grid? You want to label the map? You know what? Let's construct Herozonea, which is totally not cliche. And it's going to go through the process, and there you go. You might say, you know what? If we can randomly generate the setting from the core rulebooks, why can't we also randomly generate a world? And you can. Have fun with it. If you want to let the story write itself and work with what you're given, work with what you're given. Here we go, everyone. Take a look at this. Isn't this nice? Everything is already ready to go. It's all here for you. We can have a hex crawl adventure. Now, let's say that we want to go to apparently the Shrine of Poison Tears. Oh, that looks like that might be more of a ruin. Oh, the Maid Waste. How about Boile? Here, a very cold place. I don't know any of you out there who live in very cold places. So, if we go to Boile? Here we go. Now, it'll even randomize a name for you. Here is our town of Boile. The environment, you know what? It's Arctic. We're going to change it to such. Topography. Is it coastal? Yeah, it looks like, I think we're going to make this coastal. Is there a river? That's a good question. There's enough ice that maybe we harvest the ice and maybe we're not even built on a river. I don't know. So, yeah, like there's a river here for the desolation of Isazar. So we're gonna go through and turn the river off. Is it a walled city? You know what? This is a large, not a metropolis. This is a large city. And now, how does this... I don't know how this changes in the program, but if we see this for, I guess, any... Let's say that the dwarves live here. And which kind of culture would you like this to simulate? Because, again, we have our not Germany, not China, not, all these other places. If we come down and we say, oh, you know what? I am a fan. I am a fan of Mesoamerican history, myth, lore. And we say we absolutely we want to base this on the Navajo. Then I don't know if that changed things, but that might save it as a note. So that's a reference here. But here's our fantasy town generator. There's our Arctic wastes. We're on the coast. There's no river. These are roads going out. And we can look through here and say, you know what? We trust the algorithm. Which is a very dangerous thing, but it can be trusted at times. And this looks good. I'm going to save it. Welcome to the frozen city of Boily. Boily. In a frozen city. And it's Boily. Now, it might be named after someone. Could be something in a dialect. Or maybe there's actually a source of heat here. There might be some sort of like a thermal vent that keeps the water here warm. And if the water in Boily is bubbling and warm, and it's keeping the cold off, you know what that makes? That makes for a beautiful fog that is always rolling through the city. And I wonder what happens to lurk in the fog. I don't know. But there's the link to the town generator, and have fun. Now, are we going to do this? Nah, not quite. Though we can. I want to show more of the basics like this. Well, it'll be a fusion. Why say what I'm going to do when we can just do it? So let's pop over here. We know for sure that we have a desert and a mountain biome. And now, is it a single solitary mountain? Is it a chain? Is it an old mountain range like the Appalachian Mountains, which are just, worn down, kind of wet, overgrown? Are they relatively newer, drier, like the Rocky Mountains or some other mountains by which you all may live? Well, draw something. See what it looks like. Let's get the pencil out. And we'll, if we have a mountain in the desert, maybe this is where the source of our water is. Tony says, tropical fish in the bay. Funny thing, here in Sweden, a now defunct nuclear power plant used part of the North Atlantic Ocean for cooling. In those water, tropical fish normally found around the Philippines were often fished. Oh, right, because of the water from the cooling tower would be recycled back out to the sea. And so it would make the water warmer. And you say, you know what? Let's put a mountain right here. And you can even go so far as to draw little topography lines. And you say, oh, you know what? For scale, every line represents a 500-foot change in elevation. And so the closer they are, the steeper things are, right? So we're making a very steep side, and then it kind of mellows out. We can even make another point right here. Right there, and then it gets super steep. And you say, you know what? I'm really proud of this. I think like one mountain with two peaks. Twin Peaks, we'll call it. Some strange stuff happens at Twin Peaks. Brilliant. I'm glad I thought of it. This is an original idea. None of you are allowed to steal my Twin Peaks idea. Yeah, I'm using a traditional mouse too. And we say, well, we have the desert, clearly. That's the sand, right? Yeah, and totally not make a TV show out of it. Unless I get royalties on it. Alright, so some of you might be calling me out on something. Yeah, and so topography can go down as well. That would just depend on the markers that you put. So, for example, let's say that we have we indicate rise in elevation with something. Is that green showing up? It's showing up a little bit. And so we have these showing up. However, we switch over to red, and now we show that from this level, this actually sinks down. Oh, wow. And in fact, maybe this is a shelf, and that this sinks down. Wow. So have fun with it. You just got a quick lesson in topography 101, everyone. You draw a bunch of lines. How close they are is this. If the distance between the lines is representing a consistent measurement. If they're close together, it's super steep. If they're far apart, it's flatter, right? It's a smoother climb. And what is the scale? I don't know. It could be 50 feet, could be 500 feet, could be a mile. That's really up to you to decide. And if you say, you know what, I'm not good with this stuff. I'm not good with it. So, let's start over. The desert was super easy to do because all I had to do was click a button, and then I'd say, okay, yeah, you have a point. We made a desert. In fact, let's not even go with the mountain yet. If a society is going to live in the desert, what is something that every civilization, at least every known civilization, needs? I had a slight problem to find the tools of the last stream. Hoylepa, do you mean the worksheet that we used here? Every civilization probably does need adorable puppies too, but probably even before puppies would be water, like what Tony talked about, or some apple cinnamon sparkling ice. # not sponsored. Available for a limited time. And you say, you know what? It's going to be easier to say, I want what? Oh, you know what? No, well, Kroger has it. I bought these at Sam's Club. We know that there's a fountain. Now, we have a fantasy setting. We can have something that is very, very reasonable. As far, or very unreasonable as far as concepts of architecture or how things work go. We can be anachronistic with our technology, as also magic exists. And there could be an aqueduct. What if we have something? If you're not sure how an oasis forms, and there could very well be several ways, but one way is that an oasis is a bit of an artisanal spring of water, and the concept is, when we have mountains, bloop 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 bloop. Did you all know that you'd be getting a lesson in cartography and geology and geography? So let's say we have mountains here. Okay. And isn't it the case? Look at the Andes Mountains in South America. That's another good. But we know that the wind blows this way. Ooh, ooh. Now, why is it on one side of the mountains, it's verdant rainforest, and on the other side, it's Peruvian desert? Lima, Peru is a desert city. Well, when you take a look at a mountain, in fact, we'll do this. We'll make this like that. And then we go down and you're like, oh, okay, cool land. If the winds are blowing this way, and they're blowing across an ocean, a sea, some great source of water, the air is going to pick up humidity, is going to pick up water vapor, moisture, right? And so what happens is as the winds blow in, carrying that moisture from sea level, or at least close enough, the wind, ooh, all of a sudden hits the mountain, and it doesn't stop because the wind continues to blow. And now, this dense, humid air is being pushed up and up and up, where it gets colder and colder. And it condenses. Now, some air does actually crest over the top of the mountain, and that might well carry moisture with it. Some. But that's also why we get a desert on the other side. And deserts can be cold. They don't always have to be hot. The definition of a desert is a place that lacks precipitation, snow and rain. You know, a certain amount of water is the threshold to be classified as a desert. And we know that our Grimdark dystopia is taking place in a desert where there's a mountain. Whether it's a mountain, because a lonely mountain... Ooh, that sounds like a very good fantasy setting. The Lonely Mountain. Oh, yeah. Though it needs a really cool, like, I don't know what the dwarves call it. You know, something like Erebor. No, that sounds dumb. No one would ever read a story with Erebor as a lonely mountain. Yes, Tony, the Gobi Desert is. And not counting Antarctica, yep. Oh, Demon Quiller says just like Seattle versus Spokane moisture. So there's water somewhere. Now, as water, it doesn't all just bounce back over the rainforest and kind of get recycled in that sense. You also do tend to see clouds up above a mountain. And snow, right? Eventually, this turns into snow, and the snow, wouldn't you know, melts and runs down. Now, as it seeps down through the rocks in the ground, where it it stays out of the sun, the water stays wet, you get groundwater that is flowing down through the mountain. And at a particular place for a particular reason, maybe because there is some, there's more buried rocks, or it's just a property of the watershed, that water comes back up. It can't sink any further, and it's sort of almost deflected up like the wind was, into a spring or an oasis. Now, I bring this up because this is how water and oases and other such things work in our world. This is a fantasy world. This is especially a grimdark fantasy world, where things have a cynical tone. It's societal horror. And if this is a place where, it could flourish if only for the dictator, if only not for the harsh rule, by a harsh leader in a harsh land, who probably justifies the rule by saying, if I'm not strict, you all are going to drink our water and we're all going to die. So I can make an example out of Johnny, who cut in line at the fountain, so that other people don't, or everyone can die of thirst. What's your choice? You don't have to like me, but you have to see what I'm doing here. That could be the case, Tony. Let's go, German. Lonely Mountain is Einsenberg. Okay, well, now... Wait a minute. There's a boulder. There's a boulder carved with talking faces. Now, that's different from the fountain. What if the boulder... Yeah. Now, I'm in part hamming this up. Not that I thought about this beforehand, but I want you all to have that kind of creative, moment. And you say, why don't we try this? And by the way, look how easy this is to edit. I don't have a lot of artistic skill, everyone. I'm using paint. And you say, the boulder with the face? Let's put that here. With many faces. And so it looks like... maybe it turns with the seasons, or it turns with the weather. And the faces sing with the wind that passes over. Do you see why understanding the real world allows us to twist and bend it? To provide entertainment and escapism. And so there's actually... maybe the faces are catching the wind, and it's a pump for the water. And so, getting into what Tony's talking about here, about a Mount Dwarfmore, about some aqueducts. And so the faces, the boulder with faces, acts as some sort of a very weird looking, almost like a windmill or something. It's pumping the water. And that is what is actually keeping this place going. The faces of those who died on the mountain. That could be a tradition. Yeah, so it's one giant death mask made up of the faces of everyone else who's died on that mountain. If we're playing into Grimdark, which is a branch of dark fantasy, think about it like that, everyone. Think about it and have fun with it that way. And now what that is going to do, that relates to the fountain. And so the fountain here might actually come up out of a face in the ground. looking maybe a little eerie, to at least to us as a reader. And if we're writing for the reader, and as a storyteller, if we're playing this game, oh, how unsettling would that be? That the water almost looks like, a vomit of life coming up out of a mouth. Ah, nobody knows how the faces show up. Just that there's a new one whenever someone dies on the mountain. And an idea like that, and if there's no explanation at all, or right now, make that note. That's why you work with a very simple canvas. With only a couple colors, I have taught you... I mean, many of you might have already known this. I'm not going to be haughty about it. But I have taught many concepts, and we can distinctly see what's happening. If we go to Incarnate or Wonderdraft, which are great programs, this is not knocking them. But I don't want to sit there with, 30 different stamps for things, for 5 different mountain ranges that can auto-generate.
Lleolnod.
Oh my gosh, it's been that long, my friend. Well, cheers to you. This is easy to read, and we're not caught with, flashy stuff, or what's called analysis paralysis, where we have so many options, we just sit there and go, I don't feel like making a map anymore. Should I put Pine Tree Style 3 here, or Pine Tree Style 2? Forget about it. Forget about it. We're keeping it simple. Now we have our fountain. Now we have the weird locale. And that's why it very much can be unexplained. Number one, this is fantasy. 2, this is our weird locale. Then we have this totem pole. A pole that might show the faces of spirits or gods, or a line of successors in this in the dictatorship, or something that is of a significance to the people who live here, or the people who lived here. Is that perhaps something that acts as a... Oh, you know what? If we want to lean into... Because everything should work with itself. What if we make the totem pole almost that boundary? Everyone... Like, it is forbidden because the mountain... Like, so whoever built the pump, maybe they sacrificed themselves or something. Who knows? But everyone who crosses by this boundary of the totem pole, or the poles, plural, you've entered the realm of the gods or the spirits, or something along those lines. And those who die, maybe their bodies are never recovered, but their faces show up. Although I guess that would come into... Well, it's only people who die in the mountain. So people probably go to the mountain. There's probably brave people who try and, poach water. To take more than their fair share. It's just very dangerous to do. And if we don't like that idea, you know what we do? 2 clicks, and now our world is reset to a different state. But let's go back to that idea. And we say, all right, so here's a side view anyway of things. And maybe we don't want a mountain chain, or we want it old and broken. And so we put some like alluvial fans here. And then we have our forest, but then it kind of goes into like some scrubland, and then desert. And then, out here, we can have all kinds of fun with that. Now, what's another note, though, that we have? Dwarves and Dragonborn are up this way. There's an important graveyard. I wonder if what's happening here has anything to do with the graveyard. So there is this concept of death, and that works in a very good, in a grimdark setting. Maybe the graveyard is for people whose bodies... Oh, you know what? You know what we can do? It is, if we have this kind of dystopian, area, it is a waste of very good water if we just burned a corpse. Or if we, just buried it in the sand to desiccate. If bodies have water, also bodies have nutrients. We're in a desert, and we need nutrients. Now, obviously, we would need some sort of like a waste management system for this setting. Though, to play into the trope of Grimdark, what if there's a cemetery that's actually an ever-growing farm? Everyone who dies, at least not on the mountain, but if you die in this place, your body is effectively composted, and you help grow the vegetables and stuff for everyone else who's alive. Could be interesting. Or if you're not ground up, or, you know, it's put into the wood chipper, Fargo style, you could be buried. And if you want, you can make it hauntingly beautiful. Everyone's buried with a tree, such that they may live on forever, and the tree gets the nourishment from the body, and will, you know, continue to grow. That might be this society's way to slowly try to repopulate the desert, to reclaim the desert. And after all, a dictator that is not trying to be a benevolent dictator may often get overthrown and violently. And so it is just that case of, yes, when you die, you are buried, but you're buried with a tree. And over the hundreds of years, you can see we have been able to start reclaiming this desert wasteland from the deaths of everyone. You're either buried to feed the fields or brought back as a zombie to till them, says Sierra. Frank Herbert had some good thoughts on recycling the dead in Dune. Just started rewatching the 2000 release. And share those, Tony. It's fine to just because someone has written about it before doesn't mean we can't incorporate the idea or put our take on the idea. But in a grimdark setting, if we're talking about death, violence, even a sense of mystery, this is perfectly fine. There's marauding monsters. Now, the religious building that we're going to write about there, it's a hidden shrine to a fiend. A hidden shrine to a fiend. And this is where we go, all right, what about... Because we as the author, we know everything that will end up being revealed. It's okay if we skip ahead. The Bene Gesserit drill a deep hole, drop the body of their deceased sister in it, and plant a tree in the hole. Okay. Yeah, this is not a this is not a especially unique custom. You know, often also, why might we plant flowers on a grave? You know, they're colorful symbols of life, might have been representative of something that person liked. Plus, flowers might cover up a decaying smell. The Fremen say a man's flesh is his own, but his water belongs to the tribe, or something along those lines. It's been a while since I've read Dune. Now, we have a fiend that's involved. A hidden shrine to a fiend. Fiends Now, by D&D classification, a fiend is a demon, a devil, a Yugoloth, or something similar like a Rakshasa. It's a monster type, right? We have marauding monsters. A fiend, a deal with a devil in a sense. What would be monstrous to a society like this? Spirits take the people on the mountain. No body is recovered, so that would actually be a cultural taboo to these people. Everyone has to participate, right? This is a societal horror. A dystopia, a grimdark setting is a societal horror. Everyone's in. Everyone contributes in life and death. And a fiend is involved somehow. Okay. Here we go. The city, and we'll represent the city with the fountain, okay? The city is protected by a dome of blood. This might involve blood magic or something. Everyone has to contribute to the shield. This protects the city, perhaps from the ravages of the desert, or at least that's what's said. But more importantly, what if that is said to protect from the monsters outside? The monsters outside being the spirits of the mountain, who might actually be the good guys, trying to save everyone. But to these people, the spirits look distorted, weird, messy, horrific. It's easier to pay your tribute of blood to the blood mages in order to keep the shield active. And now, of course, the blood goes to the fiend, and the fiend might well keep the shield up, but is getting this, but is getting the blood for power accumulation, you know, for whatever devil points among other fiends, is being worshipped almost as a god itself. You know, might manifest in a human guise, almost similar to like a Thulsa Doom. And we'll get to Thulsa Doom here in just a little bit. A blood tax. And that keeps everyone bound, and everyone has to serve this. No one can argue that the shield works, because it does. And the spirits of the mountain, which are really, we know, trying to help the people break out of this dystopia, are held back because the properties of the living blood hold back these spirits, which could be undead, could be fey, could be celestial. It could be a combination of all of those. And then inside, you know, we might have aberrations, you know, constructs. Like a flesh golem is technically a construct. Maybe even necromancy has just a different kind of corporeal undead. Not just incorporeal. Maybe even plant monsters. That's also previewing what we can talk about for monster biology. So we're actually setting up our ecosystems. We're setting up this grimdark setting of a dictator taking a blood tax from everyone. Everyone contributes. That also explains why, I don't know, you are convicted of a capital crime. I don't know what the capital crime is. We, in our real world, might agree that certain crimes are worthy of capital punishment. Everyone is going to be different based on your personal beliefs, maybe the country you live or whatever. I'm not here stirring the pot, I'm introducing the concept. However, the justification for cutting off the hand of a thief. When we sever the hand, the blood is paid. Because maybe, you know, we talked about wind and evaporation and all that. It could be, you know, any blood that's spilled might actually just sort of in like a, you know, a red shining like glitter, just sort of go up and feed the dome. And once someone has bled enough, that they've paid their dues. In fact, that person, yeah, you lost your hand, but you're free to go. You've paid. And if you do it again, especially before you've been able to get enough blood back in your system, you're probably going to die. But if you die, you serve everyone, because your corpse is going to feed the wheat. It's going to feed the carrots. It's going to grow more trees, so we can grow our society, because we need more people. And so the dystopia never gets better, it just gets bigger. And now more people can be sustained, more blood for the blood god, and the cycle continues, thus getting greater and greater interaction with the spirits who've noticed this bulbous tumor growing in the desert. And as it grows closer to the mountain, because that's the source of the water, that might even be the great push. The attacks continue. I see they've installed your heart plug. Don't worry, everyone gets one here. Baron Harkonnen. Look at all the story. We have a map. It actually incorporates almost everything here. And how much of the story did we just come up with by a simple doodle and understanding some basic premises for how real world things work, such as dictatorships or resource management, and then we turn it into a dystopian grimdark setting. It writes itself, everyone. And from here, if you want to say, you know what, I have the landmarks, now I want to go into Wonder Draft, Incarnate, and World Builder, Anvil, World Anvil, and others. Now break out the detailed templates and the 5 types of pine trees and all that. But we've answered all of the prompts. They work in a way that is consistent. While this is escapism, this is fantasy, consistency is still key, because the reader needs to latch on to a consistent framework to start trying to understand what's happening. And maybe the story starts at a point where the spirits of the mountain have been adapting, or in this constant, almost like, you know, the Borg versus Federation. And so they've actually been able to breach at points, which means that people, like the citizens, have been called up not just to serve, you know, in a militia, or everyone has to serve in the army kind of a thing. And some countries have that, where all citizens have to be in the army for a couple years. It's, oh, alright, Hoylepa. My people need me. Have a very wonderful Saturday, my friend. Thank you for hanging out. It's always a pleasure to have you here, Hoylepa. But that gives us the ability to write encounters. It gives us a consideration for magic, technology, culture, and it's maybe, hopefully, I don't know. There's 27 of you here right now. Does this sound like a unique enough idea that it's intriguing to you to develop? Or there might be someone out there that says, nope, This is exactly like this book series by this author from this year, and you push your glasses up. In fact, we have an emote for that. And if any of you want to actually this, that's fine. But because we had these randomized pieces that we've found a way to make work together, we have our consistency. We have our map that we can always add detail to, but we needed to explore things first this way. In fact, there might even be one reason why people might actually leave to go to the mountain could be for resources needed to grow. Stone or metal or something else. Or to go to try and get to the jungle for new plants or something else. So it's not that people can't leave, but it's just super duper duper dangerous, and your body's lost. Because if you die in the mountain, well, your face shows up on the big boulder, but there's never a body found. Ooh. All right. Well, we get the idea. We can always refine the map, but this was, I think, very productive and a great conversation. I need to get up and go refresh myself. When I come back, let's talk about magic systems and determine the type of magic or the magical considerations we would like to have for this setting that we're creating. So hold on tight. I'll be back in like 5 minutes, not that long. And let's talk about magic, everyone.